Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to tackle a question that's at the heart of, well, pretty much all human progress. So, where do these big, world-changing ideas really come from? You know, the ones in science, politics, all of it. It's a huge question, and the answer, well, it's probably not what you've been told.
Yeah, we all know these stories, right? Newton getting beamed on the head by an apple, Darwin having this big aha moment with some finches. It's this romantic idea of the lone genius. And look, it makes for a great story, but that's pretty much all it is, a story.
And that brings us to our first big idea here, what we're calling the genius myth. It's the popular story we're all sold about how progress happens. You see, the way we usually talk about progress, it's all framed as these individual discoveries, like some brilliant person all on their own just finds a law of nature or invents a new way of doing politics, as if it was just, an artifact lying on the ground waiting to be picked up. But what if that's not really how it works at all? What if people like Newton and Darwin didn't just discover their theories out of thin air? What if instead those ideas were just inevitable, basically waiting to happen? Because if that's true, well, that changes absolutely everything.
Okay, so to really get this, we've got to unpack a totally different concept, one that really goes against that old genius myth. And that concept is called emergence.
All right, so let's put these two ideas side by side. Discovery, that's like you're on a treasure hunt. You find a chest and it's already full. The treasure is already there, hidden. Emergence, though, is completely different. It's more like you have a ton of scattered Lego pieces, little bits of knowledge, and all of a sudden they just click together to form something totally new. It's not one big eureka moment. It's this gradual, slow buildup of pressure that finally hits a tipping point, a threshold, and bam, something new appears. So how does this emergence thing actually happen? Is there a pattern to it? Well, it turns out there is. Researchers have spotted this four-step pattern that shows up over and over again. It all starts with what's called residual strain. I want you to picture pressure building up behind a dam. That's your strain. It's all the unanswered questions, the contradictions, the facts that just don't fit the old model. Eventually, that pressure hits a threshold. The dam just can't take it anymore. The old way of thinking starts to crack. And that's when you get a reconfiguration. The dam breaks, and all those old pieces rearrange themselves into something new, something that's stable and makes sense. And finally, you get resonance. The new idea just works. It fits. It solves the old problems, and it starts to spread like wildfire. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, okay, neat theory, but here's the really cool part. This isn't just some abstract idea. You can see this pattern playing out all throughout history, not just in science, but in how our entire society has evolved. Let's take a look. Think about the theory of evolution. For decades, the residual strain was building up, right? You had fossils that didn't make sense, all this variation in species, work on population growth. The old idea that species were just fixed and never changed, that was at its breaking point. That was the threshold. So what was the reconfiguration? Natural selection. It was the idea that finally made all those scattered pieces click into place. And as you can see, it's the exact same pattern for heliocentrism, the idea that the Earth goes around the sun, and for Einstein's relativity. It's strain, threshold, and then boom, reconfiguration. Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. This isn't just about scientists in a lab. The same pattern, this dynamic of strain and thresholds and reconfiguration, it's what has shaped the very governments we live under and the economies we participate in. I mean, just look at our political systems. Way back, ancient kingdoms had their own strain. They got too complex to manage. So something new emerged, like Athenian democracy. But then that had its own strain. It worked for a small city, but it couldn't scale up. So for centuries, the pressure built. Thinkers like Rousseau came along and reconfigured the pieces into this new idea of a general will. And that, in turn, paved the road for modern republics, which could finally solve that scaling problem. And you see the same thing in economics, too. Adam Smith's classical economics, that emerged to solve the strain caused by the old mercantilist system. And then hundreds of years later, when that system hit its threshold moment, the Great Depression,
Keynesian economics emerged as a new reconfiguration. It's the same cycle again and again. So, okay, we've seen how emergence, not just some lone genius discovery, is the real engine of progress. So what? What does this actually mean for us, right now? What's the big takeaway here? Let's just lock this in one last time, emergence. It's the process where big new ideas, from scientific laws to political systems, they don't come from isolated discoveries. They arise from the collective mind, from the whole network of knowledge. They aren't found, they are formed. And this, right here, is why this matters so much. It completely reframes how we think about progress. It means we don't have to just sit around and wait for the next Newton or the next Einstein to show up. It means that every single one of us, every conversation we have, every article we share, every question we ask, we're all contributing to that collective buildup. We're all adding a little bit of water behind the dam, building that residual strain that will eventually give birth to the next great idea. So, I'm going to leave you with this thought. We're living in an age of just constant information, constant tension. The old ways of thinking about everything from our climate to our social lives, they're showing some serious cracks. The strain is building everywhere you look. So the question isn't who's going to be the next genius. The real question is, what incredible idea is our collective mind about to give birth to next?